let's dive into this portal. Welcome to our YouTube channel. This is our very first video, and we're so stoked that you found us somehow in our corner of the internet. And we are both energetic Reiki masters. And so with all of our videos, we're going to begin to drop into the energy just to get into the place. So wherever you are watching this, if you want to get comfortable and just close your eyes, we're just going to do a quick drop in all together. Okay, and let's just start with that. Let's start by taking a really deep breath. Maybe your first deep breath of the day. And just sigh it out. Just inviting all of yourself to become present in this moment, in this space. Knowing that whatever time you are watching this, it is energetically time-stamped just for you, that you will hear everything you're meant to hear at this exact moment. When you feel like you have fully arrived in your body, go ahead and open your eyes. We have created this adventure for you to experience the magic of energy, to experience the magic of life, to experience the wildness of being a woman, if you are a woman or identify with a woman, or even just for anyone watching to dive deeper into divinity, dive deeper into connecting with the divine in no matter what way that looks like for you. We're going to be using many modalities. We're going to be having many conversations and really just talking about whatever wants to come through and what the current energies are and what we're really feeling guided to say in this moment. So like I said, it's all energetically time-stamped for you to hear what you're supposed to hear at the perfect time. So without further ado, I want to introduce Lindsay, who is an incredible channel, like insane, just speaks straight from source, and her guides and her angels and all the things. So I just want to introduce Lindsay. And yeah, Lindsay, what do you have to share for just what's coming through? And
Absolutely. I am just so excited to be here, and I can already feel the energy of everyone that is watching this and will be watching this. And really something that I feel called to bring into our space today is this message surrounding being seen for who you are, for your magic and for your gifts. Something that I teach about a lot is intuition. I love to teach about the intuition because it really is our sixth sense, and it's a sense that we're not really taught much about. And so as human beings, we have this incredible perception. And a lot of times people describe this as a gut feeling or a tingle down their spine. Or sometimes, when there's a loved one near you and you ask how they are and they're like, I'm fine, but you can really feel that they actually need a hug and they're not fine. All of these kind of experiences that we have are part of our perception. And part of what makes you so magical is the way that your intuition speaks through you. And it is incredibly unique. Learning about your intuition and how it speaks through you can help inform what your gifts are. And you have many, many, many. So some people's intuition speaks to them through their relationships with their loved ones. Some people's intuition speaks to them through the work that they do in the world, and in other ways as well, and probably in all of the ways when you start to pay attention to it. But for me, a lot of people try to hide their gifts. And I think part of it is when we're trying to kind of dumb down our intuition because it doesn't feel logical, or someone is going to ask us like, well, how did you choose that? Or how did you come about that? And saying like, I don't know, I just had a gut feeling about it. Sometimes doesn't sit well with people because they kind of want you to have some more solid answer. They want to ask you more. And I think a lot of times that causes people to just kind of shut down or think that the idea that they had, or this gut feeling or intuitive nudge or ping that they had, isn't worth exploring. And a lot of times it means that we internalize it as our gifts are not worth exploring. The thing you used to love to do when you were a kid, as you grew up, you learned, oh, maybe that wouldn't make me money, like being an artist or a painter, or a musician, or just being a stay-at-home mom and not going to work, right? There's all of these things societally that can kind of rub us the wrong way. And so we try to put ourselves into all these other boxes that will be more productive or be higher paying or more societally accepted. But some of those things that felt natural to you, that brought you joy and excitement, it's where your energy naturally wanted to flow into, is part of what makes you you. And I know and have talked a lot about how the year 2023 is the year of the water rabbit. It's a number 7 in collective numerology, and it really is the year of luck and miracles. And I think one miracle that all of us are going to be experiencing is our magic coming more online, our gifts coming more online, our intuition awakening, and having safe spaces for our intuition to play and to be seen is so important. And I know that it's Tilly's intention and mine as well to make this channel one of those places, just to create community, to connect with one another in the comments, but also to receive these transmissions. Tilly and I know what it's like to have your gifts be seen, and how scary it can be and challenging it can be, but also how rewarding and magical and life-changing it can be. And it's one of the reasons we are here to share our gifts, is to inspire others to share theirs. And your gifts do not have to look like mine, do not have to look like Tilly's or anyone else's. They'll be completely and totally unique to you. But the world needs more of your magic. And I think that's something that just is very alive with me, but I feel is very alive in the collective as well. So how is that resonating with you, Tilly? And do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah. I totally, everything you said just snaps. Yes. And I love this whole piece about a lot of people's intuition coming online. And a lot of people might just be like, why is this so uncomfortable? Like, why am I all of a sudden like feeling these deeper emotions? Or maybe your whole life you felt deep emotions and they weren't yours, and you didn't understand that, and you're an empath, and that's actually a great gift. Or maybe one of your gifts is really being nurturing, and then you have a tendency to like overgive because it's one of your gifts. And so this is all about this whole thing with gifts and magic and all the things. It's just really learning how to work with what you've got, and how to really bring out the best in it, and how to really use it in a way that can really be incredible and productive. A lot of people who are empaths can sometimes see it as a curse when you're walking into a room and you can feel just like instantly sadness because you're feeling someone else and it's not even your own. And so your mind's trying to compartmentalize it and do all the things, where you can also use that energy to, like, for example, I do Reiki, so does Lindsay, and you can actually use that energy to see where there's an imbalance in the field, and you can actually use that energy to see where there's imbalances in your life. So if you are, for example, have a lot of anxiety and you've been watching a lot of horror movies, you can actually tune into that energy of like, oh, the energy of this actually makes me feel anxious in my body. And you can use these things to help with your environment, to help with all these things. So the magic of this, and learning how to tune in with your gifts and how to work with your gifts as opposed to against them, is really, really life-changing, has been for me anyway. How do you feel about with that, Lindsay? Like, of using your gifts in a really beautiful way as opposed to like maybe not really understanding them?
Yeah, 1000% life-changing, really life-changing. I know for me, I just, how you see some people talking about their gifts, like they're just amazing at it. And like maybe it's someone that you follow that has a lot of followers on TikTok or Instagram or something, or it's someone you see on the news who's like risen through their community and they're finally being recognized for their gifts. A lot of times there's this perception that these people are just naturally good at it, or they're lucky. But I know for me on this journey, it's not like I'm always someone who recognized my gifts, knew how to use them. It was something I really had to learn throughout my own healing journey. So when I say that has been life-changing for me, I truly mean that to the depths of my being. I started really struggling with anxiety. I had my first panic attack when I was 17. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I was in the middle of my high school hallway and struggled with panic attacks for the decade following, and they were frequent and debilitating and were really scary for me. I didn't understand what was going on, and I thought it was something I was just going to live with and have as this mental illness for the rest of my life. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I don't feel anxious sometimes, but I haven't had a panic attack in over 2.5 years now. And a huge part of it was recognizing what my anxiety was trying to tell me. And instead of feeling afraid of that feeling, actually leaning into it and giving myself permission. Because the only time I would want to kind of like freak out and have a panic attack was when I didn't feel safe to just be anxious. It's like that feeling had no place to land safely in my body. I had to get it out. So sometimes it was crying, or my body would start shaking, or it would be like trying to share with a friend what was going on, which is really, really hard for me when I'm in the middle of one of those moments. And so for me, I started realizing actually that when I got anxious, it wasn't just because of what was going on around me. Often I was in a very safe environment with people that loved me. It was actually, I was having an overload of energetic information. And I started realizing how intuitive I was. And I would be picking up on things in the room that other people just weren't as perceptive to. So again, recognizing someone saying that they're fine when I know they're not fine would rub me the wrong way. And when that kept happening over and over, I was like, am I just seeing the world weird? Like, can no one see what I see? And I would feel very alone and triggered. Even since I was a kid, I would walk into spaces and I could tell in the room I walked into if my parents had just had an argument. Even if no one was in the room, I could feel the energy in the air. So as an adult, I translated that into me being easily overwhelmed, something being wrong with me having anxiety. But actually, when I started to learn about my gifts and how perceptive I was and my deep empathic nature, I started seeing actually this is like low key a superpower, because I can sense the invisible. I can sense energy in a room that no one else can see with their eyes. I can feel it and I can't understand it. It sounds, at the time, it was crazy or like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like it was 100% just batshit, you know? But at one point, when I started seeing it as a superpower, it became like, oh, wait a minute. How can I use this not only for my own benefit, but I started noticing that the more that I became comfortable with my gifts, the more that other people were inspired to use their gifts. And so then I realized not only am I not alone and I'm not the odd one out here, but this is a skill that all humans possess. It's just if we're aware that we possess that kind of skill or not. And so again, our gifts will look different to everybody. But for me, not only did it make me less anxious in general, but it really made me happier. It's made me more confident, and it's made me feel very purposeful and just very safe in every single experience. Whether I'm afraid, I'm angry, I'm anxious, I feel guilty, I feel ashamed, I feel embarrassed, or I feel completely raptured in joy, I feel safe to feel that. I feel embodied in those experiences, and I can let those emotions flow through me instead of get so balled up and stuck that they have to come out in a breakdown or come out in a panic attack. And so it's something that I've had to work through and work with, I will say. So it has really been life-changing for me. And I wish other people knew that that was possible, and that is something that people have worked with or worked through or worked with is the best way I can say it. Because a lot of times the presence of those heavier emotions doesn't mean that you're broken or something is wrong with you. It means that there is something right with you. Your emotions are never wrong. They're there for a reason. And when we figure out why those emotions and these heavy feelings are coming in, then we get to validate them and say, of course you're feeling this way. Of course this makes sense. And then we just get to feel them and have them be present. There's no need to label it, put it in a box, try to change it or fix it. What if we just let it be and let you be perfect the way that you are and seen and understood in that way? It's just a really different way of thinking about things. And so there is this piece of self-acceptance as well. And I'm sure that you can attest to that too in your own ways in your own life of just how your gifts have also emotionally affected you or helped you heal.
Are you talking to me personally or people online?
Yeah. Well, everybody, but also I'd love to hear from you too.
Yeah, so I love this piece about intuition because I feel like it leads to all other gifts, if that makes sense. Because there's this feeling of like, I feel like so many people are like, I don't know what my magic is. I don't know, like, what is my magic? What are my gifts? Like, I see this person and they're an incredible singer, or I see this person and they're an incredible cook, or I see this person and like, what is my magic? What is my thing? And I've really myself just learned that when I dive into this intuitive part of me, this part that just like somehow knows, like you were saying, just like, I don't know how I know, I just know, you know, that's what has been the guide in my life. And I think if you look back on the times in your own life, you can kind of see the breadcrumbs that you're when you really followed like this gut instinct. And I know there's been a time in your life and you're like, I don't know why I did that, I just felt to do it and I did. And that thing doesn't always just show up in like one time. That thing is actually always present, and you can always tune into it, which is what kind of brings you to like meditation and these things, and why they're so vibey is because when you're able to tune into that inner knowing, it can lead you to your next right gifts and the things that light you up. And so it's something that I really followed in my life, which led me to becoming a teacher, which led me to becoming a Reiki master, because I wouldn't say I was talented at those things or a public speaker or any of those things before. I just followed the steps of my intuition. And so if you're watching this and you're like, I don't really resonate with like being a psychic, or I don't really resonate with being this or this, you can use this for any gift you have. For example, if you are a musician and you feel called towards playing an instrument and you're like, well, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know the things, like trusting that little spark within you and trusting that intuition from your heart of like, no, but I really love this thing. And I really love like the way the guitar sounds. And so there's this piece in there that are like, it's your intuition. It's that little light in your soul that leads you to these gifts or your magic. And so I really I just did this class with Yanni Robinson, and she was talking about like, people don't know their purpose, or people don't know what lights them up, or people don't know what their passions are. And you actually do. She said, you think about what you look up all day. Like if you're on Pinterest, what are you Pinteresting? If you look up, you know, like in your free time, what are you doing? Like if you have an interest on Instagram, like what hashtags are you looking up? And those things, those little things that light you up are leading you. They're your breadcrumbs to your passions. And so the reason we start with this intuitive piece is because to truly know what your gifts are, to truly know what your magic is in the world, it's not something that Lindsay and I are here to tell you. Like, we're not like, hey, you're going to be good at this and this and this and this. It's that deep inner whispering in your heart that is like, hey, you have a message to share, like start a YouTube channel. Like it's that inner knowing. Like nobody told me, start this YouTube channel. No one told me like launch this first course. It was me really tuning in to like, what is the next right step for me, and knowing what my intuition sounds like. So Lindsay, I would love, because you are like such an intuitive queen, how can people know what their intuition sounds like?
Yeah, such a good question, and one of my very favorites to answer. I'm such a nerd about intuition. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Really, there are a few different psychic types. And what I mean by that is actually the word psychic comes from the same root as intuition. They're two different words. It's like psycho and intuit, like the same root. One is Greek and I think one is Latin, but they mean of the soul. So if you are someone that's psychic, it means you are of the soul. Actually, the root is the same root of the word physical, or even psychology comes from that as well. I know they're slightly different, but it's either of the body, of the soul, of the mind. So being psychic is really just being connected to your soul and to your inner light. So having a psychic type means that this light inside of you speaks to you really through different parts of your body. So similar to the 5 physical senses that we have, the 5 psychic types kind of go in accordance to those senses. So I'm sure you guys have all heard of clairvoyancy. It has a very weird, I think the word has been taken and just used in all different sorts of like sidekick or fortune telling kind of context, but actually that's not what it is. Clairvoyancy simply translates to clear seeing. So if you are someone that has an amazing imagination, maybe you are like, you know, someone else is driving, you're in the car and you just start looking out the window and it's almost like you have this daydream playing in your mind that's almost like a movie, right? There's a good chance that you are clairvoyant. If you are somebody who someone is telling a story and as they're telling the story, you can see the whole thing in images in your mind, there's a good chance that you are clairvoyant. And it means that your gift is having clear sight in your mind's eye. You're probably someone, whether you're good at art or you're not good at art, you can come up with these amazing ideas in your mind, and then you might enjoy trying to translate them into real life, whether it's through art, through drawing, through paint, through building, or just through your life. You have an image of how you want your life to be or the house you're going to move into. And then when you're looking for those houses, it's like, oh, this one matches the vision I had in my mind. You're probably clairvoyant. Clear seeing. So all the other clear senses, again, match the five senses. So clairaudient means clear hearing. You are somebody that probably gets songs stuck in their head all the time. They might be random songs, or you might hear the same song on the radio. I mean, on the radio makes sense, but like the same song will come up on your Spotify or iTunes shuffle, and it can be a little bit uncanny. You might be clairaudient. You might be someone that has high-pitched ringing in their ears. You could be someone who might hear little like pops or sounds, and you turn and like nothing's really there. You might be so used to this clairaudient thing happening that it's probably natural to you. And if you've resonated with any of these I've said so far and you're like, well, yeah, doesn't everybody have that? They might, but that means that it's so natural to you that you're like, oh, I didn't know that that was a gift, but it is. So that could be one way that your intuition shows up for you, or you're receiving energetic information. So the next psychic type could be clairsentience. This is clear feeling. And this includes touch, but it also includes our internal feeling or our emotion. So I'm going to separate clairsentience into these two categories. Also, I need to pause this real quick and plug my computer in because it's getting ready to die. So I can go back to that in just a second, but hang on because for some reason it's not here. I am so sorry. Let me go grab it.
Oh my gosh. Oh. Oh, heaven help us. Oh my goodness. Whew. Okay, we're here. This is so funny. Oh my gosh, Lindsay, I just had this like crazy coughing attack.
Are you okay?
I was just like, I'm gonna fill this space with talking about how amazing Lindsay is and what a channel she is, and then I just started coughing like crazy. You guys, though, isn't Lindsay amazing? Like, I can just sit and listen to you, and I'm just like, whoa.
Well, thanks. If you need to go step away and have some water or get yourself something, please feel free.
We might need to edit that part out.
That's what I was thinking. That's okay.
I don't know why. That was wild.
Clear in the throat chakra.
Holy shit.
I'll take a sip with you.
It's really interesting because there's something about the blue lotus. I like could taste the blue lotus, and it was like so yeah, maybe just clearing the channels from the heart to the throat.
Yes.
Okay. We're back. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So clairsentience, kind of separating it into those two categories. So clairsentience being clear feeling. you are probably someone, and I have a good friend that has this gift, and it's probably the gift that I identify with the least. So I'm going to use her as an example, because I think it's so interesting. But she works in an office. So she has a cubicle and someone sits next to her in a different cubicle. And she started going to work. And every time she was at work, she's like, man, my ankle is hurting so badly. But when she'd leave her cubicle to like go to the cafeteria or take a break in the middle of the day, she'd feel fine. And as soon as she got back to her cubicle, she'd be like, oh man, my ankle hurts so bad. So this continued on for like a couple of days. And she just didn't think too much about it because it was fine when she wasn't in her cubicle. And one day when she walked up, she actually looked in the cubicle next to her and noticed that her coworker had a boot on their ankle. And she said, oh my gosh, what happened? And her coworker said, actually, I fractured my ankle a couple days ago, but didn't know it was fractured. And so I'd been like taping it up and I thought it was just a sprain, but she finally went to the doctor and had a fractured ankle and now had a cast on. So my friend in this cubicle could physically feel in her ankle the pain of the person in the cubicle next to her. So that's clairsentience. But another way that clairsentience can show up as a touch or physical sensation is you might be someone that gets tingles on the top of their head randomly, especially if you're at a concert or you're listening to good music and you just get this full body tingle. That's clairsentience. You also might be someone that can pick up a card or pick up someone's picture, and you can feel the energy of either where that picture has been, or that you can kind of connect to the person in the picture. But you can really gain energetic information from picking up things tactilely. You might be someone that loves antiques or loves thrifting, because these objects have been pre-owned. Final example, you might be someone who walks through stores, and when you're shopping, you can't buy the thing just by like holding it up and looking at it. You have to touch it and feel it, and you want to put it on your body and feel it, literally, try it on and feel it on you to see how it feels. There's part of that process that's important for you. You might be clairsentient as far as the physical side. Now, clairsentience on the emotional side, I'm going to call clairempathy. Clear empathy is clear feeling through our emotions. So you might be someone who can sit in front of a total stranger. Maybe you're sitting next to each other at the bus stop or on a bench, on a park bench. And even though you don't know this person and you're not talking to them and know nothing about their life, you can sit down and you're like, oh man, I feel kind of sad all of a sudden. You might be picking up on this person's energy next to you. True story. This has happened to me many times as I used to live in New York. I'd sit down and I'd feel good and I'd be having a good day, and I'd sit down on the train and someone sitting next to me, I would start to feel really angry or anxious or sad. And I'd look over and I noticed the person next to me when I was feeling angry was like having an angry text conversation. Or when I was feeling anxious, I'd look over and someone was like, picking at their nails and like rubbing their hands. Or someone that's sad, I'd look a couple people down and there'd be someone crying. So you can feel what other people are feeling as if these emotions are your own. And quick side note, it's really important if you identify with this kind of gift that you learn how to discern between what is yours and what someone else's. And I think this is helpful for everyone. So I'll just say it quickly. But one suggestion I have is to, when you have emotions coming on and they feel either random or sudden, or there wasn't an event that happened that you can link that emotion to, you can always just close your eyes and take a deep breath and ask yourself, is this mine? And it helps if you name the emotion. So is this sadness mine? And then just feel the answer. And you'll be surprised when you ask your own body that question, how clearly and quickly you'll get an answer from that. So those are a couple of the different psychic types. Also, I forget what the clear smelling one is called. I think it's I'm not even going to try to say it. Clairgustance, I think is what it's called. Clairgustance, I'm almost positive, is clear smelling. So you might just be sitting in your bedroom and all of a sudden you get a whiff of your grandmother's perfume, or you smell tobacco, or you might smell a flower, even though there's no candles lit and nothing else going on. You could be intuiting and receiving energetic information through smell. Am I missing any senses? Oh, tasting. Tasting is the last one, clear tasting. Same thing. So you might be tasting chocolate or tasting tea, or you might get a taste of like red wine or something like that in your mouth. And it's just enough that you know you're not actually tasting that, but there's something in your mouth and the sensation of it that reminds you of that taste. So these are all the different psychic types. But I would also say that every single person has experienced maybe not one of these examples, but one of these sensations in ways that are outside of what they're currently experiencing. So for me, last one I forgot. It's actually my strongest clairsense. So I'm glad I remembered. It's called claircognizance. And claircognizance is clear knowing, where sometimes you know things and you don't know how you know it. So the best example that I can give from my life is when I wake up in the morning, I have really profound thoughts. And it's usually the first thought that goes through my head, and it's very clear. So I woke up, this is literally how it happened, more or less. I woke up one day having a totally different job, being very happy at that job. I woke up one day and said, I'm going to become a life coach. And I was like, what's a life coach? I don't even really like know what they do. Like, why did I think that? That was weird and random. And when I started looking it up, just every part of my soul was on fire. And I was like, I'm totally meant to do this. Sometimes we wake up one morning and it's like, I'm done with this relationship. I don't know why I have this clarity. I don't know where it came from. And it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but you could be washing the dishes or walking your dog, and somehow you just have this knowing. The other example I love to use is with claircognizance. It's thinking of someone like, oh wow, I should really call this friend. I haven't talked to them in a long time. And then like that day you look at your phone and that friend is calling you and you're like, whoa, how did I know that this friend, that's so weird. I was just thinking about them, right? We've all had those kinds of experiences. And so you can call it synchronicity. You can call it fate. You can also call it a coincidence if you want to. But when you start to pay attention to all of these different psychic types, now that you know that they exist, you might find that there are moments like that that happen for you more often than some of the other ones. Now, I believe everyone has all of these senses. It just, some of those senses are more strong or stronger than others. So paying attention to how that shows up for you is important. But for me, yeah, just hearing what people were thinking before they said it, or like hearing, like I think of a word and someone would say that word, or imagining that someone was going to call and then they'd call, those kinds of things is how I found out, like, oh my gosh, I think I have a clear sense. I think it's claircognizance. Like I loved learning about that. So I hope that served you, but I would love to hear what resonates with you. Please comment below and let us know which one of these clair senses, or maybe all of them, resonate most with you. I'd love to connect with you and hear what gifts kind of speak through you and in what way. That would be awesome. Is there a clair sense that you feel most connected to, Tilly?
Yeah, I definitely have the vision one where I will see a vision of things and then bring it into form. So I definitely have that one. That's probably my highest one. And then I also have the knowing one. And then what was the feeling people's feelings. I feel it all the time. Like my boyfriend is quitting vaping right now. And I'm just like, ah! I feel like I'm quitting vaping every time he's around. I'm like, I don't know why, but when you walk in the room, I feel like I'm gonna like lose my shit. And he's like, I'm sorry, babe. And he's like fine on the outside, like you wouldn't know it, but I feel like I'm going crazy. So yeah, I definitely feel those. And so I feel like it's so important to know what yours is. And I love what you said about you may not even know it's a gift because it comes so naturally to you. You may be like, doesn't everyone have visions like this? Doesn't everyone, like know when like have these things that they know when someone's going to call? And like I love what you're saying of yes they do, but also like it is truly a gift that you have. So I so much love that. Like so much magic just in the intuition and the way we receive the gifts, or the way we receive our messages. And yeah. So we drew some cards before we hopped on this call, and a lot of the cards we're talking about, do you want to hold the cards up about the Nine of Cups one? Yeah. So a lot of the cards that we're talking about were being seen in your gifts, and being seen kind of just even being seen in your magic. And so I love what you were saying with yours, Lindsay, if you want to like kind of point out what in that card you saw and how this ties in.
Yeah. So this deck is called the Before Tarot. So the artwork is the moments before the typical Rider-Waite-Smith deck that you might or might not be familiar with. But it's kind of the traditional tarot deck. So with the Nine of Cups in the traditional deck, it's just 9 full cups with someone sitting in front of it, and they're feeling proud and feeling happy and feeling fulfilled. Something that's really interesting about this card is this person is going to have 9 full cups, but they have to fill them themselves first. But the thing that stood out to me the most about this picture wasn't this person filling the cups, but it's actually, I don't know if you can see, but there are these children's faces behind these cups hiding, watching him fill the cups. And to me, that message of being seen is really interesting when it comes to filling your own cup. I'm sure we've heard that before in terms of self-care or filling our energetic cup, but something that Tilly actually pointed out when we were going back and forth about this that just was really beautiful to me was that sometimes we lead by example. So with other people looking at us, it's like when other people see us fill our own cups or pursue our own dreams or own our magic, it actually inspires them to do that same thing in their lives. And I thought that was so cool and so profound. And I like that this card uses the imagery of children because children are so innocent and they are so open to learning. Children don't really know how to judge anything. I don't know if you watching this, you have any toddlers in your life or have spent time with kids, but I just spent time with all 3 of my nephews this morning. One of them is 4 years old, and he is just so bright-eyed about everything and is so willing to just take everything in, and he kind of digests it. And so it's really cool that they use kids on this card because seeing someone else fill their cup, it's almost like you get to take it in and be like, ooh, I want to do that too. Or like, ooh, I want to see what that feels like for me. Or how can I apply that to me? Especially because toddlers at that age, they're not developed enough to like think about someone else's feelings or what their experience would be like. And that's completely appropriate for them. So it's just kind of interesting that that's the age that I see the children on this card is like, okay, I'm seeing someone else do that. What would that be like in my own life? And being inspired by that, which is really beautiful.
Yes. And this one also, it says, lead the way, be a leader, show others how it's done, and you can help others. And so I love this whole thing with gifts and all the things because one of your gifts, and I'm really feeling this strongly for the world right now, is something that you're actually going through. Something that you might be getting rocked by, something that you might be struggling with, or a challenge that you might be having. Like, as we can see, there's like, it's kind of like a storm that's going on, and everyone's kind of looking to her, like, what are you gonna do? Like, how are we gonna, like, what's the plan? And so when we talk about gifts, like some of your gifts come from the things that you've been challenged with, that you have grown through. And it, like I said, it may be something that's happening to you right now. And so coming to this place of like being seen, like, what do you have to gift people through this storm that you might be going through right now? What can you share? How can you kind of be a leader in this place of like, okay, I'll just give myself as an example. I just went through a huge breakup and with my boyfriend, who we're back together now, but we're moving. I'm in the process. I decided to move out of my apartment and into this little trailer, and the trailer needs to be completely redone. And there's this part of it that is like, oh my gosh, like, this is hard. I really love my apartment. I brought my baby home here, like all the things. And now I'm moving to this trailer that's way like not quite as, definitely not as vibey as my house is now. And instead of looking at it as like, oh, this is happening to me, I'm just really looking at it of like, okay, like now I have this chance to redo this trailer and redo myself. And I have this chance to make this trailer beautiful. And I have this chance to really channel this energy into the trailer and to my new living situation and to the possibilities behind this, as opposed to, I'm going into this new place. And so when I do that, and I'm planning on sharing it online, I'm going to share the whole journey. And I'm just really hoping that in that, like, how can I be a leader in anyone else that's going through a transition or maybe in a hard place or the things, and how can I be a way shower in that way? And so thinking about what you're going through in your life, what you're growing through is what we'll say in your life, and how can you find the, I don't know if it's like the bright side or like the lesson in that, and share that lesson, because I can promise you there's probably someone else going through it as well right now, or something similar, or just a storm in general. And the way that you handle your storm and you bring that forward, especially if you're someone who's a leader, how can you use the storms in your life to still hold your, to lead? Because it's easy. I think it's so easy for us to look at people who have like the nice car and the nice things and all the things, and life is going beautifully for them. And it's just like, oh, but like, we don't see the storms that they went through to get to those places. And I promise you, they've all been through the storms. And so, yeah, I really love this whole thing of like being seen in whatever it is you're going through, because it's easy to be seen in your magic, but can you still be seen in your storm and your lesson that you're going through now, and maybe pass that lesson on? Yeah. Do you have anything to share with that, Lindsay?
First of all, yes, so good. Snaps to that entire message. Yes, I love the message of just not only being seen in your magic and when things are good, but also being seen in your storm. One thing that I will add, just to continue on that as well, is for whatever reason, while you were speaking, Tilly, this voice came in all of a sudden. This is what I mean about clairaudience. But it's like, it's not my voice, but I heard this thought of like, well, who am I to lead anybody? Or maybe I don't have anybody to lead. It's just me. And what I would say to anyone that might be having that thought or having that feeling right now, or who has ever felt that way, is being a leader, other people's presence is not required for you to be a leader. It's not like in order to be a leader, people have to be watching you. Although in life, someone probably is. Someone probably is watching you. But regardless of all of that, if you were alone on a mountaintop and nobody was around, how can you lead yourself? And the magic that you step into your life and the art that you create in your life. And I don't just mean like a piece of paper drawing art, but I mean like your life being the canvas. The art is what you create in every single area. It's the dinner that you make. It's the outfit that you put on. It's the mindset that you choose for that day. That is your art. So how can you create the art of your life just for you? Just for you. And what would you need to hear right now? What wisdom would you need to hear from your own storm? I know it could sound ridiculous or it could sound silly, but I cannot tell you how many times I have been saved by my own words and my own advice. And what I mean by that is when I've been going through really hard times, one of my favorite things to lean into is journaling. And journaling is a place that I can be really, really vulnerable because nobody else is going to read it. I can burn it. I can rip it. I can like throw it in the trash, right? Or I can keep it there. And there have been moments where I have accidentally been either like cleaning out my closet and I find an old journal and I'm like, oh, what was I going through? And then I just read this thing that old me was just pouring her heart out vulnerably about everything that she was going through. And I'm like, wow, I really needed to hear that. And so that's what I mean, is that past Lindsay was being a leader by showing up vulnerably and by creating art through her challenges. It doesn't mean it wasn't messy. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't all put together. I wasn't like, this is hard, but I'm going to like step up and like just keep myself all together. No, I was falling apart in these journaling pages and I was leading myself in that moment because that's what I needed. I needed to be vulnerable. I needed to express. I needed to be authentic with my storm. And I know that there's someone here that really needed to hear that it's not just leading for other people, but it's leading for you. It's leading for the past you that's looking at you right now, hoping that you keep going because you're on the path that past you would have like dreamt about you being on. And you're leading for future you that's looking back and cheering you on and is like, man, I hope that she keeps going because I know what we're going to create together. I know where I am now. And if you could only see where you're going to be a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you would keep going and you'd be like, oh, this storm, it's going to pass. and I'm going to be doing something amazing. So please know that your leadership does not require anybody else's eyes or presence. And yet, when you lead yourself, you will naturally lead others. You will attract people to you that will be learning from you, that will be watching you, even if it's just your family and friends. It's so important, and the world needs your magic. And if you're someone that shares on social media, even casually, you never know who will be taking away from your authenticity and what you're sharing. So the magic sometimes like is the storm. It's not like there's magic and then there's the storm. It's like magic is the storm is the magic. And sometimes the challenge that you're going through, if it's helping you become the person you need to be to like manifest the thing that you want or have the thing that you want or be the person that you want to be, then that challenge is the magic. It is the transformation. It is the transition. I don't know why, but in my mind, I just got the image of like Cinderella, like getting bippity boppity booed, and she like goes through this tornado and transforms into a princess. And your transformation might be the exact opposite. It's like being a princess and transforming into like being a rugged mountaineer. Maybe that's the transition you want to go through, but like that's it. That challenge is the little like bippity boppity boo tornado, and that's part of it. That it is like that is the magic. So that's what I would add. And yeah, good stuff. I feel like I needed to hear that too.
Yeah, I love that. The magic is everywhere. The magic is literally everywhere. And so many people are like, magic this, magic that. And it's like, these really are the magical moments of our life that just help us to transform and grow and change. And I love, you pulled a card with a chameleon, and I want to talk about the chameleon for just a second. And it's an 8 of Wands. Yeah. I love the chameleon on this because we were talking about chameleons and how, first of all, how magical are chameleons in the first place? They can literally change to any color of their environment. And we were talking about how they can change so quickly. And that's like their magic, right? And so it's really interesting, like for the chameleon to be in all these different environments, because like it kind of shows them how many colors they can be, or how much diversity they can be, or how like how can I change into this color? How can I change into this color? And it's like the environment actually supports them in doing that. We were talking about how we don't really know, like, how do they do that? Do they just feel the energy of the environment? Like, I feel like I'm gonna Google this, but like it's really cool how the environment kind of shapes or like forms the chameleon into this color that maybe it never was before. And so it's really cool to think of like the environment you're in now, or the storm you're in now, or the thing is like actually bringing on a new color view that you maybe didn't even know was there. And there's so much about chameleons like that we could just go into, which I don't know if you want to channel some stuff about chameleons right now, because you channeled something really beautifully before, which might lead us into a different like segue of the conversation. Probably like the last message we'll leave with you guys. And yeah. So what do we have on chameleons? Like, what was your main thing, that card and the vibes?
Totally. Well, the interesting thing with the 8 of Wands, being a tarot reader, I know that the suit of wands is all about our energy. So it's our creativity, our inspiration, and how our energy likes to move through us in a joyful way. You know how there are just certain things in your life that it's like you can just do forever and ever and ever, and you almost never get tired because whatever energy you're giving to that thing gives back to you. That's kind of how I vibe with the suit of wands. So when the chameleon was on this card, and especially I remember the first time I ever saw this card, I was like, is that a gecko? Like, what kind of lizard is that? And then I heard really loudly in my ear, my guide said, chameleon. And I was like, a chameleon. And I started thinking about it, was like, that's so interesting. So I now just say that there's a chameleon on this card because that's what feels the most intuitive to me. And also I'm pretty sure it's a chameleon, but if it's not, that's okay. And maybe there's another animal that will pop up in my mind another time, or another kind of lizard. But anyway, chameleons. Knowing that the suit of wands is all about energy, when Tilly and I were talking about chameleons and them changing all of these different colors, I was kind of like, how do chameleons know colors. Like I'm sure they can look at a leaf and be like, okay, this leaf is green, let me imitate that. But have you seen how quickly chameleons can change color? And that's something Tilly was saying, is like, if you've ever watched a chameleon change color, especially if you're putting them on a leaf to a tree or you're watching them walk around, it's like such a fast transformation, and it's so natural to them that it doesn't seem like they have to work really hard to try to be like, okay, how can I imitate this, and then do it in their body. So something that came through for me was like, is a chameleon so energetically sensitive to its environment that it just feels color? And it reminds me of people that actually have synesthesia, which is where they can hear music, but they see it as color in their mind's eye. So like clairvoyancy, and I know that's your strongest clairsense, Tilly. It's being able to hear something, but then imagining in your imagination a color, or associating a color with numbers as well, or even a smell with a color, or a person with a color. It's that kind of relationship. And so I'm wondering if chameleons have something similar, where when they're walking across a tree to a leaf to orange, I don't know why that would be what they're climbing over, but anyway, they can feel the energy of the tree, that they don't have to look at it and analyze it. They just are like, I feel tree. I feel leaf. I feel orange. And the color is actually a part of the experience of being a tree, or being a leaf, or being an orange. And with this card and how it pertains to you is, how do we know when it's time to be full on in our color and let ourselves be seen? And when is it time to blend in? Because when chameleons aren't blending in with their environment, they're not blending in with the tree, the leaf, the orange, what color are they? And different chameleons can obviously be different colors, but it's like, how does a chameleon know when it's time to blend in with its environment and when it's time to stand out? For me, I know that I feel ready to stand out when I feel safe. And I have to monitor my energy for that as well, because I know I'm a magical human being. That's something I've healed into. And I can say now that I am by no means perfect, but I really love who I am. And part of my imperfections are what make me unique, make me special. And honestly, they help me learn and help me grow. And so for me to be vulnerable in my mistakes and vulnerable in my imperfections, there are some environments where I feel safe to make a mistake. I feel safe to trip over my own 2 feet, or to say something silly, or just be a little bit more of my edgy self to explore. And there are other environments where I know maybe that's not the time and space for me to be in that place. And so some teachers will say, like, be yourself, be full out all the time. And there's definitely value to that. But for me, I get really burnt out and very tired when I'm trying to force myself to be seen. And I'm like, everybody, look at me, look at how magical I am. Someone tell me how great I am. Like, I'm showing you, I'm showing you. Like, it's just, I will get so tired, I'll have to nap like for a week straight. So for me, thinking about being seen in my magic also is me knowing when I feel aligned with being in my magic. And it's not to be seen by everybody else, but it's to be seen by myself and feel the experience of being that color, being able to be blue when my background is green, or being able to be orange when I'm in like a gray environment. And that's just kind of an interesting thing to play around with. So something I want to offer to you in thinking about you as a chameleon, notice the environments that you tend to blend into in your life. Which environments do you tend to just fade into the background? Maybe with your family, you don't really say your full-on opinion or say exactly what you mean, because it's just easier to keep the peace. Maybe at your work, you don't kind of talk about your hobbies too much, or tend to, like, again, say your opinion or dress the way you want to, because in that environment, they're asking you to be a slightly different version of you, or a contained version of you. Notice which areas in your life you tend to fade into the background, and ask yourself why that is. Is it your conscious choice to fade into the background to protect yourself, to reserve your energy? Or are you fading into the background and blending into your environment because you're expected to do so, and you do it because you feel like you have to, not because you're choosing to? This is an interesting exercise because it can help us see where we feel safe to be ourselves. where we feel safe to make mistakes, where we feel safe to explore the different facets of us, and where maybe we don't. And it's not to judge those environments as good or bad or anything in between, but just to simply become aware of the environments where we do feel safe. And maybe in those places where we know we can just be our natural selves or explore putting on all these different colors, when we know where those spaces are, how can we make sure that when we're in that environment, we're allowing ourselves to be seen? We're not blending into the background when really it's safe for us to explore, being seen and kind of being outside of our own box. And that's really what came through with the chameleon card. Just the question of, how does the chameleon know when to blend in and when to stand out? And when is that a defense mechanism and when is it a conscious choice? So something interesting to think about, and I think a powerful exercise to walk yourself through for your life as well, to see where you can express yourself more fully.
I'm feeling really called to dive into that. I feel like we should all do a little meditation just to close out. Okay. If you guys all want to close your eyes. I love meditations. I just feel like they help you go inward and just really see for your own journey. So just closing your eyes and just being aware of your breath. Dropping fully into your body, fully into the now. And I'm just going to have you feel the difference in your own energy when I bring up these different situations. I'm going to have you think of spending time with your partner. Or a past partner, even. And just feeling how comfortable you feel to be fully in your magic, just letting it all out. Then I'm going to have you think about your family. If all of your family was gathered around you, how comfortable do you feel to be fully all out? Letting all of your colors show. And not judging yourself or judging your energy, just noticing, being the observer. I'm going to have you think of your closest friend group, probably your closest 5 friends. How comfortable are you being fully yourself, no filter? I'm going to have you pull all of your energy inward and just tune into your own frequency and just being here alone by yourself. How comfortable do you feel within yourself being full out? In all of your colors, all of your emotions. And again, with no judgment, but maybe even just observing, is there anywhere that feels tension in that? Is there anywhere that feels that even alone, when you're by yourself, it's not okay to be fully in your magic? Or maybe even noticing the places in your life like your artistry or your sex life or your work? Is there any areas of your life that you don't feel comfortable being fully in your magic? Fully yourself. Letting any judgments of anything go and just being the observer, just coming back to your heart. You can go ahead and open your eyes and maybe grab a journal and journal about what came through. I feel like it can be really powerful. Like for me, I didn't actually realize that just being by myself, there was some places that I didn't feel fully comfortable, even on my own. I was like, what is this? What is this resistance I'm feeling? So maybe you felt something like that as well, or maybe in an area of your life, like your sex life or your career, I don't feel like I can fully just like, here's my gifts, here's my magic, here's my talent, here's my art, here's my creativity. Like, is there any area of your life that you feel yeah, like there's that defense mechanism of like, nope, not all the way. I can be this version of, you can see this version of me, but not all of me. And it's just an interesting thing to tune into. Yeah. Do you have anything to add before we close out, Lindsay?
I don't. I think that was beautiful. I'm excited to sit with these reflections as well. And yeah, just really looking forward to connecting with everybody in the comments as well. If there's anything you want to share, what you're taking away from this video, anything about your clear senses or the reflections or experiences that you had during the meditation, Tilly and I are just really excited to receive you because we really desire this to be a two-way thing. It's not just you receiving, but us receiving you as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing your energy with us. And we're excited to see you next time.